Welcome. I'm Lou Raiola with Driving Goodness. Thank you for joining us today as we present the first event in our new series on zero emissions, exclusively for our virtual discussion platform, the Driving Goodness Amplified. As we come together today to celebrate World EV Day, we are honored to showcase the amazing work of our partners UPS, Volvo Group, Green Lots, and Last Mile OEM Workhorse. We at Driving Goodness are proud to stand with our nonprofit partner, the Electrification Coalition, to advance the adoption of zero emissions fleet of all sizes and types, and we look forward to collaborating with the Electrification Coalition on future episodes of our zero emissions series. I also want to thank our Driving Goodness supporting companies, 3M and the Vomela Companies. And a very special thank you to our panelists, whom you'll meet here momentarily. Now, a few housekeeping items. Today's event will be recorded and shared with all the registrants afterwards. We also invite your questions. Please use the menu tab and focus on questions versus chat, and go ahead and submit your questions, and we'll have some dedicated time at the end of today's panel discussion. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, the senior editor of Fleet Owner Magazine, John Hitch. John?
Thanks, Lou. Hi, everybody. I'm John Hitch, Senior Editor for Fleet Owner, and I want to first thank Driving Goodness for putting on this webinar on a topic that will be increasingly more important to understand over the next decade. Luckily, we do have a really stellar group of experts here to help guide us through the first steps. And another bit of housekeeping after the introductions, we're going to dive into the Q&A portion that I will lead, and then feel free at any time to just throw your questions up in the question box, and we'll try to get to as many as we can today. So just personally, I have a lot of questions about electrification. From my own experience covering the field over the past year, I still can't say for sure if battery electric trucks will ever become, what people like Elon Musk envisions, which is, a viable long haul option. But what I do know is that I see no reason to doubt the data collected by experts such as at the North American Council on Freight Efficiency, otherwise known as NACFE. And that data indicates there are duty cycles in places ready for electrification now. And that's in places like, anywhere that has daily returns, so regional routes and last mile drayage, things like that. And it's really great to see that more manufacturers and fleets are, partnering up and proving out year after year. This year has been especially great, and next year we're going to start to see a lot of Class 8 full production of these trucks, and more pickups and vans as well, if you've been keeping up on the news. So right now, even if your fleet doesn't match up with any of those, electrification can still provide a lot of stuff in the future, and it's best to know how to get started, especially technology moves faster than we're ready for sometimes. And there's changes to regulations, incentives, and as well as innovations in battery range. These can all affect the economics quite rapidly. And nobody wants to be caught off guard while their competitor is bragging about 100% zero emissions fleet while they're also beating you, on prices as well. So hopefully this webinar can just help you answer some of those questions to get started and help you feel confident in your decision to get started now as opposed to waiting a bit longer. So now let me introduce our first speaker, Patrick Brown. He's the Director of Global Sustainability at UPS. Working with cross-functional teams and executive leadership, Patrick leads strategies and initiatives to advance the company's long-term sustainability vision. Patrick has managed UPS's sustainability program since 2008, driving strategy creation and execution of company-wide sustainability initiatives. Thank you, Patrick. Take it away.
Well, thank you, John. And just first of all, I guess happy World EV Day out to everyone out there. So Director of Sustainability at UPS, as John mentioned, our commitment to sustainability at UPS is not new. What most people don't know is that UPS has been testing alternative fuel vehicles since the 1930s, when we first started using electric vehicles in our fleet. Electrification is just one lever in our sustainability fleet journey. Today, we operate more than 10,300 vehicles in what we call our rolling laboratory. This rolling laboratory is our fleet of alternative fuel and advanced technologies, which include electric vehicles, electric hybrids, as well as a host of other different types of fuels and technologies like liquid natural gas, compressed natural gas, propane, etc. And over the past decade, we've invested more than $1 billion in alternative fuel and advanced technology vehicles and the infrastructure to support fueling them and maintaining them. So given our size of our fleet, we're able to test and deploy different types of alternative fuels and solutions at scale. One thing is we don't believe that there's going to be one silver bullet. However, electrification is going to play a very key role, not only for UPS, but in the transportation sector in the future. So at UPS, I'm committed to some goals, ambitious goals, around reducing our absolute greenhouse gas emissions. And our plan is to reduce our absolute greenhouse gas emissions 12% across our global ground operations by 2025 from a 2015 baseline. So this means that even as we continue to grow our business, continue to add more vehicles on the road every day, drive more miles, we're also going to have to decrease our emissions and decrease our impact to the environment. So to reach that 12% goal, we have what we call a couple different levers or sub-goals to help us support that. By 2020, this year, 1 in every 4 vehicles we purchase moving forward will be some type of alternative fuel or advanced technology vehicle, getting away from conventional gasoline and diesel trucks. By 2025, we will source 40% of our ground fuel will be sourced from lower carbon alternative fuels. Again, removing our dependency away from gasoline and diesel. And 25% of the electricity that we're going to consume and, of course, charge our electric vehicles will come from renewable sources. On an average business day, UPS handles over 22 million packages for more than 10 million customers. We have a unique front row seat to the sustainability challenges that our customers are facing. So we collaborate with them to come up with all sustainable solutions. So, advanced technology and electric vehicles are one way, but also how do we figure out ways to be more efficient as a company? Offering solutions like carbon neutral shipping, where a customer can easily offset the carbon emissions with any shipment. By looking at different delivery options that will enable us to eliminate miles and eliminate delivery attempts and be successful that first time. And these are through things like UPS My Choice, or what we call access points, which provides consolidated deliveries to certain locations. Could be a UPS store, could be a CVS pharmacy, a Michael's, Advanced Auto Parts, areas like this where we can drop off multiple packages in one convenient location. As I tell folks, alternative fuel vehicles, electric vehicles are great, but at the end of the day, the greenest mile is the mile we never drive at all. So we're always at that mindset of figuring out how do we eliminate miles first, and then think about switching over to all different types of alternatives. So thank you for the introduction and the time, John. We embrace the opportunity. We also embrace the responsibility that we have as a fleet operator to develop alternative solutions and technologies that will help not only UPS but others within the sector.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. Next, we have Dr. Aravind Kailas, the Advanced Technology Policy Director at Volvo Group, where he oversees policy development, technology outreach, and public engagement strategies to further Volvo's interest in automated driving, electromobility, and connectivity. Dr. Kailas has been instrumental in enhancing Volvo's technology thought leadership and has built and managed an extensive personal network of private and public entities to strengthen organic innovation and public affairs initiatives across Volvo Group. Take it away, Aravind.
Yep. Thank you once again for having me and the Volvo Group on this panel. It's our privilege and honor. Before going any further, I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Okay. I've been having some network issues on my side, so I apologize if things get murky. Just let me know. Are you going to run the slides, John, or?
You can go ahead, Aravind.
I think he's frozen.
And it looks like we, oh. Can you hear us, Aravind? We apologize, folks, for the technical difficulty.
I'm not able to see my, yep, okay. Something's loading up. All right, perfect. Clearly, I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, all right, so we'll use the Volvo Lights project as the backdrop. So as you can see on the very first slide, what is happening here is we have a project that is funded by the California Air Resources Board. This is intended to be a project where we will gradually bring electric trucks into real world operations. This is being done in collaboration with 15 other partners. And as you can see, Air Quality Management District is the lead. We're the lead as far as the operations are concerned. We're partnering with customers, we're partnering with infrastructure providers, we're partnering with the utility company, the ports. We also have on our team a community-based organization for community outreach, and then 2 community colleges who are developing courses for training the technicians. So this project is not just about electric truck, it is really about that this technology is sustainable. And so we as a team are really addressing many different verticals. To the right of this slide, you can see a map, and that is where Volvo Lights actually lives. And it's living in the southern part of California, in the Inland Empire specifically. Those green circles that you see are the locations where we're gonna have trucks domiciled, and then we're also going to have charging infrastructure installed. These are behind the fence kind of charging infrastructure. There's one there, which is, the Trillium site, which is between the Inland Empire and the ports. It's, I don't know if you can read that clearly, but it's the DC fast charging station in Anaheim. That is going to be operated by Trillium, and that will actually be the first public charging station for medium duty, heavy duty trucks. So there's a lot going on, a mix of private and public charging infrastructure. There's a total of 23 trucks that are going to be put on the roads as a part of this. There's 2 dealership sites, there's 2 customers, there's going to be additional customers. And as you can see at the bottom of the screen, the green bar, you can see sort of the number of electric assets. These include on-road and off-road assets, a variety of charging equipment for the trucks, and then also for the off-road vehicles. So just a whole lot going on. But I think the biggest takeaway was we're so fortunate that we had this public funded opportunity to bring this advanced technology to the market. And what we're realizing as an OEM is it's not just about the trucks. We have to really keep an eye and do more as far as things are concerned outside the trucks. So that there's just a lot going on, and I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about this. Next slide, please. So basically, there's, thus far we have actually, you'll have to hit the enter. I think there's a, perfect, thank you. So we have so far, the project kicked off last year. And this is really a group of people who haven't traditionally worked together, right? So we as an OEM work together with the dealership, with the customers, but then we rarely work with the utility company or a city public agency having, permitting jurisdictions, or some of the other players that you saw on the previous slide. So it's taken a while to actually get some of the contracting done and getting some of the pieces flowing. But thus far, we actually have 5 electric trucks that are put on the roads, and then 5 charging ports that are actually there here. If you give us a couple more months, you're going to see a lot more trucks and a lot more charging ports. So that's really sort of a progress update. So these are really Class 8 electric trucks. Next slide, please. And then that's going to be the last slide. So one of the things that we have learned as an OEM, again, hitting that theme, it is not just about the trucks, it is about the infrastructure, it is about training the technicians, it is about having all the other pieces, moving pieces in place. And so this is really an outcome of having the large team work together. We have realized that having a single point of contact in every entity that is being a part of this project is very beneficial. But I think the big takeaway for all of us is that having clear communication will help get things flowing and also build mutual respect. So we can get into a lot of these aspects, but I think as an OEM, we've had a lot to learn in terms of introducing electric trucks and developing the ecosystem. So I'll pause here and I'll look forward to answering questions and being part of the discussion. Thanks again.
Great. And thank you, Aravind. So now let's hear next from Henrik Holland. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Greenlots, a Shell Energy's company that designs and installs electric vehicle infrastructure, and they actually worked with Volvo to do some of the projects that Aravind just talked about. So Henrik, who has worked at Shell for more than 17 years, he's responsible for Greenlots' ongoing operations, including project engineering, delivery, and end-to-end customer support. And I'll let Henrik talk a little bit about what Greenlots does.
Thank you so much for the introduction, John. It's really a pleasure to be part of this very distinguished panel this morning. My name is Henrik Holland. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Shell Greenlots. As John mentioned there, Greenlots is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Shell Group, and specifically Shell New Energies US. Shell has committed to spend about up to $2 to $3 billion a year to about 2025 in the new energy space. And the acquisition of Greenlots in January of 2019 is part of that story of building a very large integrated power and mobility business for the next few decades to come. If you look at the ambition that Shell has in the energy space, we really aim to be one of the largest energy companies, power companies in the world by 2040. Of course, mobility is an important part of that, hence the acquisition of Greenlots. So with Greenlots, Shell acquired a leading provider of EV charging solutions. So we bring together a cutting edge open standards based software platform, which we call Sky. And we combine that with one of the industries, I'm very proud to say, I think one of the most experienced infrastructure solutions delivery and support teams. The team that I run, that I'm very proud of, has built almost more combined EV charging stations than any other team in the industry to date. Our technology itself, so the core of our business really is our software. It's cutting edge network management software, brings together integrated charging optimization with grid balancing services and a driver-facing mobile app, all in a single platform. And we combine that with an ability to really take a project for a customer from requirements definition all the way to solutions design, delivery, and operations. Increasingly, we are prioritizing the fleet space. So traditionally, Greenlots has been very much oriented towards utilities. We have now shifted quite heavily in the projects that we're building today already to the commercial industrial space, including fleets. So today, we are ourselves commissioning about a site every other day. If you take into account the projects that are built also by our partners that are utilizing our software and building their own projects, it's about a site every day. So I think that is tremendous growth from an industry perspective and from Greenlots' perspective. The focus on fleets that we're very excited about, and our participation in the Volvo Lights project there, Arvind, that you just outlined, has been extremely exciting for us, and I'll tell you why. The fleet space has a tremendous opportunity to create a real impact on the sustainability side of things. It offers a really great opportunity to really drive electrification in large chunks. So really get to electrification and greenhouse gas emissions impact at scale. Next to that, from my perspective, putting my Shell hat on for a moment, there is a real opportunity to bring together the various components that are required to make a project work by an integrated player like Shell. So with Greenlots, we have the software and the ability to deliver infrastructure, design solutions end-to-end, deliver and operate. A little known fact is that Shell is also one of the largest wholesalers and sellers in the C&I market, commercial industrial market, on the power side. So we're starting to look at our customer portfolio much more holistically and think through what the overall business drivers are for our customers at scale, and what components of solutions Shell can bring to the table to drive that business value for our customers. And what's really important to me there is that when you only have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. What's really important to me is that we really listen to our customers to really understand what their business drivers are, and with the flexibility of our open platform that can integrate different types of hardware that can manage the energy impact of charging on site, together with our ability to source sustainable energy for customers, we can really customize our solutions to deliver what our customers really, really want. Without, as opposed to just selling the one single vertically integrated product that we might have in the market. So that is really important to me, really important, I think, to the growth of the electric mobility industry in this particular space. I'm very excited about what lies ahead. Thank you, John.
All right, thank you so much, Henrik. And we had a little bit of a last minute change here. Unfortunately, Dwayne Hughes, the president and CEO of Workhorse, was not able to make it due to some technical difficulties. I see we have a couple questions on last mile already in, and I'll make sure to touch base with Dwayne at some point, get those answered. We will be having a story on this panel tomorrow on fleetowner.com, and maybe we'll be able to answer those there as well. So if you have any last mile questions, we still have Patrick Brown here, who might be happy to answer some of those, and we can answer them offline later as well. With that being said, let's just jump right into the question and answer portion that you've all been waiting for, and we will start with Patrick here. So Patrick, new technologies always come front loaded with hype and little to back it up. Now, why should fleets and associated companies be more excited about electric trucks and vans now than maybe last year or a few years ago?
Yeah, great question. So I want to take one quick step back just a little bit, John, just to set a little context for folks on the call, to understand our fleet. So we have over 125,000 trucks on the road every day. And we are typically in that medium duty to heavy duty vehicles. Medium duty meaning, class 4 to 6. That is your typical UPS truck. We actually call them package cars. That's a UPS package car. That does that last mile delivery, comes to your house and business every day. And then we've got our class 8 fleet, which is our large tractor trailer fleet, the ones, the 18-wheelers you'll see on the highways every day. Just going to give you a little context on that. As I mentioned earlier, we've had EVs in our fleet since the 30s when we first started. And this really isn't a proof of concept anymore. Electric vehicles are here today. And now it's about how can we make a business case out of it. And we're starting to see potential production solutions. As I mentioned, medium duty and heavy duty. There is not a vehicle manufacturer producing at scale electric trucks for medium duty and heavy duty today. We're getting very close, and it's very promising. So I think that has come a long way. I have a peer at UPS, and so I told him I was gonna take his analogy. I love Enrique's analogy about the hammer and the nail. So now I've got to use my own. So just so you know, but really this whole process started as at sub-zero temperatures, and it takes a while for the ice to melt. But what's really exciting right now is we're actually starting to see all the sweat in the ice cubes, and it's getting there. And we're excited about where electrification is going. If you think about telephones and a phone, right? You had to have a bad phone to eventually get to the iPhone. And we're actually, we have over 1,000 electric vehicles in our fleet today, 1,000 electric, full electric, and electric hybrids. And we're at the process, we're actually starting to retire some of those older early generation electric vehicles. So just kind of give you an idea of how long we've been looking at electric with different manufacturers. But a lot has changed over the last 5 years. Battery pricing is down. We're starting to get very close to cost parity with an electric vehicle versus a gasoline or diesel counterpart. Again, I'm specifically coming from the point of view of medium duty trucks right now. Energy density is up. More range, more miles on a single charge. A typical UPS package car can drive anywhere from 10 miles a day in real dense urban settings to over 200 miles a day in rural areas. And so we have a very diverse duty cycle. So that's very promising. And then integration of technology is occurring. So, you know, between connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, technology is really accelerating. You mentioned that earlier, John, of how technology is coming. And then at one point I already made is about, again, the support for EVs at a higher production level now than in past years. We're excited. I know Dwayne's not here today, but we're excited with the work that Workhorse is doing. We've also recently announced a partnership with a company called Arrival, a UK manufacturer of electric vehicles, and have released a pre-order of 10,000 of those medium-duty trucks, and we'll start seeing those coming into service here in the next couple of years. So we're excited. You know, and I think for us, there's one last thing about UPS and working with vehicle manufacturers, and what we're excited about with the future of electric is, you know, for us, it's about asking manufacturers to make a vehicle that UPS wants to buy, not a vehicle that UPS has to buy. So I think that is extremely important. And we want EVs to be built with the capabilities of all the technologies today, right? And to Henrik's point, zero emissions, zero tailpipe emissions. So we're excited about where the technology is going with electrification. And again, it's got a huge role to play in the transportation sector.
Excellent. Thank you, Patrick. I'll start next with Aravind, if you want to jump in, and then Henrik after to touch up on what you're excited about electrification this year and going into 2021.
Thanks for the question, John. And Patrick, very well said. I think whatever Patrick said, I agree to almost everything he said. As an OEM playing again in the Class 8 and other commercial vehicle space, one of the things that we're realizing is the technology's there, right? And one of the things that you talked about in terms of the energy density going up on the batteries, we're also finding that these batteries can now be put on the trucks. I mean, electromobility, I'll just back up a little bit, is not new to the Volvo Group. I mean, we've been playing with this technology for a while. Buses were our entry point, so to speak, and we've been actually having electric buses run in Sweden and in other parts of the world. Now we have gradually figured out what is the right way to introduce this technology in real world customer operations when it comes to hauling goods. And I think what we're realizing is, from a technology perspective, time is right now because I think the lessons that are being learned from the light duty sector are now being translated to the heavy duty sector. We have a good enough playing field in terms of you know, all the other verticals that need to be there in place, the charging infrastructure, and then the software piece, and then sort of the engineering and the civil contractors who are getting used to working with high power equipment, and then even the EVSCs building these equipments and supplying it, the supply chain. So there's a lot of good things that are happening from the vehicle and the infrastructure supply chain side of things. Looking at the policy and sort of the regulatory push, I think that's been another motivation, right? So now with the advanced clean truck rule and the NOx rule that California Air Reserve Board passed, and then some of the other states now looking at electrification, keeping an eye on the presidential election, you know, Vice President Biden's sort of his stance on energy, and then also our president's stance on sort of the energy economics and such. So I think there's this nationwide awareness, in fact, global awareness, realization of the benefits of zero emission transport and also transportation electrification. So I think it's really the makings of a perfect storm. There's a technology push, there's the market pull, and then if you want to call it the policy or the regulatory push also sort of aiding this, in the form of setting guidelines, in the form of providing the incentives, and I think that's very critical. So maybe, Henrik, I don't know if you want to add on to it.
Yeah, perhaps just a few things to add. So I had the pleasure to work at Shell Technology Ventures for a while, for a few years ago, and one of the key things that we would always look at was, market and technology risk. And I think if you look at this this space, specifically the class 4 to 6 application space, we're in a very different spot today than we were even 3 to 5 years ago. I think when I first started looking at that space about 7 years ago, I think there were still some real fundamental questions about the viability of these use cases, and how the cost down curve for batteries was going to progress, what kind of regulatory environment would exist. And I think on both sides, you've seen an acceleration, like recently in California. I think another important aspect on the market side is that there's significant growth on freight movement in local distribution. I think with COVID-19, we've seen an increase in e-commerce, online shopping, deliveries. So if we believe for a moment that is a trend that's here to stay, or at least it's kind of been pulled forward in acceleration, there's significant growth there. And with that potentially comes a significant growth in GHG, greenhouse gas emissions. And I think you see the regulatory environment respond to that. So I think that's a real market opportunity that's driving things. And then on the technology side, we now simply have more history. A few years of additional data in a new technology means a lot. So I think there's more certainty about the cost down projections of vehicles in the class 4 to 6 segment. So I'm really excited about that next year, just to do more projects. And I'm very excited if I look at our funnel and the opportunity that lies ahead of us at Shell Greenlots, but as an industry as a whole. So that's kind of what excites me for next year. I'm generally, really excited about this space. But I think that with COVID-19 and the surge of e-commerce, I think this whole industry is going to be given an additional boost. I'm very hopeful about that.
Great, thank you, gentlemen. That was some great answers there. So as the journalist and the skeptic here, I have to ask, we already went over what we're excited about, but what are some reasons to maybe temper expectations for the near future? And we'll go back to Patrick to start off this one. So why, just in general, we're going to hear a lot of great things coming up, but just, yeah.
So that's a great question, because I will tell you that in my role, I'm starting to get a lot of inquiries from external stakeholders, specifically customers and investors, around what are we doing to reduce our impact on the environment and greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, the first word out of their mouths is electric vehicles, electric vehicles, electric vehicles. How come you're not adding more electric vehicles today? And I think that's the point. I mean, we're getting close, but I think the tempered expectations is that, again, I guess they don't really realize that that these class 4 to 6 vehicles are just not being produced today at scale. Henrik gave a nice overview of that. And so what I'm telling people is just to kind of temper their expectations. I think we're getting close. We're going to be there soon. I think, I'm excited about the next couple of years and where it's going to be, but it's not there today. And being able to, meet all of the customer demands we're starting to get on having zero last mile delivery, as much as we want to get there, as fast as we want to get there, it's going to take that production. And then the other thing I wanted to add too, I mentioned our large 125,000 trucks. That's a huge capital investment that we've made. The average life of a UPS package car is around 15 to 18 years. A Class 8 tractor for us is around a 12-year life. So it's going to take, even if the electrification and electric vehicles were there today, we can buy as many medium duty and heavy duty electric vehicles today. It will take us, over, close to 2 decades to turn over our entire fleet of vehicles to electric. So that's the other thing to really kind of wrap your head around. It's not going to happen overnight. And then then I won't even mention the charging infrastructure. So we can go down a whole nother rabbit hole there, right? What's it going to take to actually charge all those vehicles?
Right, and just because he mentioned that, Henrik, do you want to?
Yeah, happy to jump in on that. And I can't help but, see that challenge and then immediately think about the opportunity as it comes to, infrastructure issues and being able to manage the grid impact of having so much additional load, variable load behind the meter on the customer premises, getting the energy there. I think that is a real systems challenge that we will have to deal with as a society, and from a political perspective, really kind of decide how we're going to invest in that space. Am I still on? My video just changed.
We can hear you, Henrik.
You can still hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll just continue to talk. So I think that there's a real decision that we have to make there politically, but I think, near medium term, there's a lot that we can do as commercial enterprises to deal with these challenges. So one of the things that we have been really focused on at Greenlots with our software capabilities is to be able to smartly manage the charging of the vehicles on site in conjunction with monitoring and managing site load, for example. So that's one of the objectives of the Volvo Lights project, for example, is to really experiment with some of those use cases and determine and define strategies that really work. So there's one aspect of that around smart charging with software. There's a lot that you can do to manage the load on site, to manage the impact on the grid. On the other side of things, there are things that we can bring to the table as Shell more holistically on the microgrid side of things. So if there is an opportunity to generate power on site through solar generation, in the future there might be hydrogen storage. Near term, that could even be gas-fired power. There's a lot of diesel backup still in the market for these types of situations. But you can look at that entire customer-sided energy envelope and manage that with software, bringing in some additional assets like storage and on-site generation, if that makes economic sense, to solve some of the near to medium term issues that you would have by bringing so many new EVs, into your depots. So there's a lot there that we can do, I think, already from a software and technology perspective. As we scale, we're really going to have to think about, sustainable solutions that bring on, significant amounts of new power. If you have a significant amount of vehicles, of course, that need to be charged on site. So I think that is a challenge near term, but I think it's also an opportunity for innovation and really kind of to change the way that we operate our networks today, and possibly also deal with some of the challenges that we have. For example, in California, we have these rolling blackouts now. We had a very hot day a few weeks ago, not enough power. The utilities were basically planning rolling blackouts. If you have more flexible capacity, stored energy on site in vehicle batteries, for example, some of that energy might be able to be utilized to balance some of that out. So I think longer term, there's a lot of opportunity there for us in a different type of energy system. Near term, what we're going to be doing as Greenlots is helping our customers solve problems by smartly deploying our software and bringing, distributed energy solutions like solar to the table where that's possible.
And we have about 20 minutes left, so I want to get through some of these other great questions for you guys. So Arvind, I'm just going to skip to the next one here with you. And from the OEM side, what does getting more of these trucks, which is going to be coming soon, what is getting all those trucks on the road and collecting that data? What does that mean for the engineers and developing more efficient, longer range vehicles in the future?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So we're gearing up, the Volvo Group is gearing up to launch the Volvo Electric VNR toward the end of the year. This announcement was made early in the year, so we're very excited about it. I think with more and more trucks, you're gonna have the possibility to not only do the regression kind of testing, the reliability testing of the various components, but also get valuable data, not just in addition to the technical parameters, you can also get insights into how these electric trucks are used. One of the things that we're realizing by working with our customers and our dealerships is you can't really replace a diesel truck with an electric truck and just walk away. It's just really not a one-to-one replacement all the time. You got to sit down with the customer, you got to sit down with the dealership, understand how they plan to use the trucks, understand the real estate requirements, understand their future investments and such, and see what is the best way for the electric truck to actually serve their purpose. And that is how we design the trucks. That is how we sort of help our customers pick the specs for the trucks. So I think as we put more and more trucks, as we hand more and more trucks to our customers, we're going to learn together with our customers and with the rest of the industry partners, what is the right way to think about electromobility solutions and what is the right way to deploy them in real world operations. I think when I say this, this also includes what Henrik pointed out, which is addressing the infrastructure concerns, because there are certain sites that may not be equipped to have that upgrade to the transformer, or even maybe if it's a group of sites, the grid may need to be upgraded. So a lot of those system level issues will be worked out as we're working to put more and more trucks. I hope that answers the question to some extent, at least.
Absolutely. So next, this is a great one for Patrick again. So for fleets seriously mulling electrification, and they were going to, let's say, create a checklist, what should be, some of the things at the top to get started with, Patrick?
Yeah, great. And yeah, so there you go. There's a great little infographic on the screen that we've developed. And again, there's going to be a lot of variables within this chart. But we would recommend mapping out your vehicle strategy first. And Aravad said a very good there about understanding what is your needs for your fleet. It's not going to be a simple one-for-one replacement, right? What kind of EVs, right? Light duty, heavy duty. Not all EVs are created equal. So some EVs have more technology than others. So I think just understanding what your needs are is extremely important. Then come the calculations, right? You need to make this work. Not only understanding capacity of the electric needs. Again, that's another hurdle we have. Whether it's smart technology like Henrik mentioned, it could include upgrades to the grid, or at least the power coming into your facility. You have to really think through, what are those needs you're going to have, and to really make it work. And then also the return on your investment, right? This is invested capital as a company. You've got to invest in it, and what is that return on that working capital? So you got to look at all the types of cost of ownership and everything that you're going to be comparing, electric versus diesel. And, incentives and grants, I think they're great. Take advantage of them. I could tell you that, we're always looking at where incentives and grants are available throughout the world and start implementing in those locations. But also just one thing to think about is, their incentives are great, but they're not going to be there forever. We think of them as kind of a bonus and really just as a push to get you started in that area. So simple infographic. You can share this with the audience just to kind of map out kind of some of our thoughts as to what you need to do to prep for an electric fleet.
Great, Patrick. I just had one follow-up for you, and that has to do with total cost of ownership and maintenance. Now, you said you've already gone through, one round of one life cycle of electric vehicles. So, what's the truth behind, that electric OEMs are saying there's a lot less maintenance involved? So, true, false, somewhere in between? Can you explain that a little bit?
I think when you look at the actual internal combustion engine being gone, and so you've got less maintenance there for sure. I think you still have other type of maintenance. You think about the duty cycle that we put our vehicles through, and so you've still got a lot of other types of maintenance on the vehicle itself, the chassis and the supporting of things. So less with the kind of more preventive, fluid changes, things like that. But you still have some typical maintenance on the vehicle. So overall, yes, we are seeing a lower cost, but I think it is going to be a little dependent on your duty cycle and how you operate your vehicles.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're going to jump a little bit around, and we're going to go back to Henrik now. So with technology like this, there's always a fear of missing out. So it seems like with infrastructure, there's also a fear of getting in over your head. So can you walk us through just a couple of the do's and don'ts when you're setting up your infrastructure, talking to that power company, and going with a provider like Greenlots?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like the chart that you've put up there, Patrick. I think that really captures very well kind of what the end-to-end process looks like, thinking about an electrification project. So let me divide it into 3 sections, kind of as a process. So I think the first step, and this is very much aligned, I think, with what you've presented here, Patrick, is really to understand what drives value for you, and for us, we do that with our customers. And what I mean with that is that your priorities may be ranked, differently from your peer, from another customer. So if sustainability is your primary driver, you might end up with a different solution than if pure total cost of ownership is your key driver. So I think really understanding what your true drivers are, and then thinking through what your fleet strategy is over time, what those use cases look like, so that you can hit and deliver on those value drivers. I think that's really important. So the don't there is to, again, when all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Don't expect to find an off-the-shelf single solution to fit every problem. I think the do is understand your key drivers and really think through your use cases and what your strategy is over time. So then the second phase is around planning and execution. There was a good portion there on your slide there, Patrick, about talking to utilities. So this is a multi-stakeholder environment if you're thinking about a larger project. So really thinking through the planning of your design, deployment, just building your projects is extremely important. That's where we have a tremendous amount of expertise at Greenlots. As I said, I think we have a team that's built more sites than anybody in the market today. Is really to understand what the pitfalls are, what the permitting issues are. That really can differ from utility to utility. So really understanding that's really key. So the don't there is don't rush in, but really think through the execution of your program, taking into account all the various stakeholders involved and what their positions are. So that's the do, really plan appropriately and understand your stakeholders and what their drivers are. And then I think the third category of do's and don'ts is on the operations side. As I think you mentioned it, Patrick, before, you can't just replace a diesel truck with an electric truck and walk away. It's really important to realize, I think, that value is really only captured once the project is in execution. And for these projects, seamless execution excellence is really required, not to destroy value over the long lifetime that these projects could have. So the don't there is don't just walk away. The do is really think through, again, not just the execution, the build plan, but also what the operations plan is. Really think about operations readiness. What do I have to have on day one when I flip that switch to operate this project over the course of the next decade perhaps. So the do there is really realize that the value is really captured once the project is delivered and in operations. And again, to toot the green Holland's horn here again a little bit, we have a very sophisticated customer experience team in place that stays with our customers post-delivery. What I really like about Shell, hey, I've been here for 17 years, is the long breath and the stick-with-itness that we have with our customers, and a real belief that safe operations is number one, making sure everybody gets home safe, and then secondly, really being there with our customers to ensure that the value of their projects really gets realized.
Thank you, Henrik. And one thing on that, it's almost like if you're starting a new family is how I kind of see it, where you when you're buying a house, you're not gonna, if you want a family of 5, you're not gonna buy a 2-bedroom house. You're gonna buy like a 4-bedroom or whatever, and then kind of fill it up over time. So thanks so much for that. Now, Aravind, I wanna switch back to you now. Volvo Trucks did an amazing job with VTNA lights and just getting all that private public partnerships, and just I can't imagine all the moving parts of that. But for the uninitiated trying to get grants and investments, what tips do you have to help navigate and find those grants, and just in general, just help with those upfront expenses? Because we all want to see electrification succeed, but sometimes those capital expenditures upfront could kind of scare people away for now.
Yeah, thanks for that question, and thanks for the compliment. It's been definitely, I don't want to say painstaking, but it's definitely been challenging to get everything going. And it's a team, so everybody must win, and our focus, that's really been our North Star. Like, all our partners ought to shine, and by that way, the Volvo Group shines. So you hit on a very important thing that I wanted to bring up on this call. Incentives is key. This project would not have happened if ARB did not have the funding, if AQMD did not step up and lead the proposal development and submission. None of this would have happened. In fact, if you kind of look around, a lot of the Class 8, I would say, as far as medium duty, heavy duty electric truck projects, there's incentive money that is actually helping really accelerate the technology development, not just on the truck side, but also on the infrastructure side. So I think the big takeaway for us is, when it comes to advanced technologies, we are still in this phase where incentives is very, very key to sustain the rate of deployment and development. Not so much development, but it's really the deployment. As you've heard from my colleagues, Henrik and Patrick, the technology is reasonably mature. And of course, there's still room to grow, and I think work is ongoing. But really, it's important to recognize that where there's incentives, and I think Patrick touched on that, take advantage of that. These are going to be short-lived. So one of the things that we are trying to tell the policymakers is, give a longer ramp. Don't close the funding in 2022 or 2024. Have more incentives, have a pipeline. The other thing that we're recognizing is having this sort of coordination between the vehicle funding and the infrastructure funding. I think that's going to be very critical, because the electric truck without the charging infrastructure is not going to go very far. This is still a new area. Things are still being manufactured and put out in the field, and they're being tested, but in real world operations. So it's important to have that incentives, and important for things to be coordinated. So one of the things that we do, the Volvo Group does as an OEM, is constantly talk to our customers, understand their needs, understand where they live, where they operate, help them get access to a lot of these initiatives. These could be at the vehicle level, these could be for the infrastructure, this could be for operations like the LCFS credits here we have in California. So there's 3 broad buckets, if you want to think of it that way. And then as far as the vehicle incentives are concerned, again, that's a sliding window, right? So from the state, it varies from state to state. So you ought to constantly, monitor, it varies from state to state, but you definitely want to monitor the funding opportunities that come from the different state agencies. So that is something that the Volvo Group does regularly, working with its dealership and also our customers.
Excellent. So we have time for one more question here, and it surrounds geography here. So NACFE recently released a heat map, if Tyler, you want to throw that up. And it lists all the different mega regions where electrification can happen now. You can see, obviously, Northern California, Southern California, Texas, all those places. So outside of California, guys, where do you think has the best chance for early success? So if you're listening now, in what region, aside from California, who really needs to take this to heart and, you know, start making calls right after this webinar? And we'll start with Patrick.
Sure. Yeah. So I will tell you, you know, when we're considering where to deploy electric trucks, there's a lot of factors that go into that decision. Everything from the charging infrastructure, the ability to work with the utility sector, the climates. We didn't really talk a lot about climates, but you know, going back to tying the do's and the don'ts into this strategy is, you know, the technology today. Where does it best work, right? If the technology is not supporting very cold climates where you got to use a lot of heat to warm the cabs and the trucks up, maybe you're now concentrating on more warmer climates. So, you know, this framework that NAFTE and RMI developed, you know, helps not just fleets like UPS, but utilities, equipment manufacturers, policymakers, others, to really think through the many different considerations. So we can't go everywhere. I will tell you that we're in the process of really deciding. You know, I mentioned earlier about our 10,000 arrival trucks, and we're actually going through the process of right now. Where are we going to deploy those? Where is the best place? And you know, so I have a challenge. I'm just going to throw right back out to everyone. John, is, you know, make me an offer I can't refuse. You know, as far as coming to your town or city, you know, incentives are going to play a heavy role in it also. You know, we're at the end of the day, we're a service provider. We don't build electric trucks, we operate them. You know, we want to continue to concentrate on our core business, which is providing a service to our customers. So we're looking for, you know, one of the easy paths on trying to figure out where to electrify, and it's going to be a lot about collaboration. And the locations that we do pick, and you know, I know you want a location right now. I'm not going to disclose it, but the locations we do pick are going to be the ones where it's going to be very easy to work with the city, very easy to work with the state, very easy to work with the utility provider in that area.
Great. We'll go to Aravind next, and just real brief.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking at regions where there's an opportunity to collaborate. We're also going to look at regions that have the ability to collaborate amongst themselves. Not every state is going to be like California with the amount of budget and whatever else. So we're looking at regions where obviously it's a tri-state area, or maybe 4 or 5 states come together, and then it creates a nice little corridor, again, to serve our customers in that region.
Great. And Henrik?
I very much am aligned with Patrick and Arvind on this. I think that it's really important in these early days of a market to get your projects done there where there is the least resistance. And a lot of the success of these projects really does depend, again, I mentioned, on stakeholders, like how easy it is to work with your utility stakeholders and the partners around those projects. So I think that's going to continue to be a key driver for our customers wherever we do business in North America.
Okay. Yeah, and one thing to note for the listeners, there was a recent 15-state plus Washington, D.C. memorandum of understanding to help get all zero emissions trucks out on the road. So check out those states. They probably have a good head start on some of the others. Not that anyone can't catch up. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. This has been really great. And I'll kick it back to Lou for closing statements.
Real quick, John, thank you so much. Really appreciate your efforts and great clock management. To our panel, Patrick, Dr. Kalis, Henrik, thank you so much for your wisdom, your passion, and your incredible insights. Really appreciate it. To our audience, thank you for joining us. I hope you found value today. You'll be receiving a recording of this event, and please stay in touch with Driving Goodness for the announcement of our next amplified event as we continue this series on zero emissions. And lastly, everyone have a great World EV Day. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.